Welcome back to an episode of Tuned Engines. As you can see, we have an engine in front of us. And if you saw my live stream, you would know where this engine is from. This is an engine I got submerged in water. I say submerged because when we tore into it in the live stream, there was a bunch of water in the block and all the cylinders. So now we're gonna do a teardown process and see what is wrong. The reason I want to be doing this is I can get this engine working and be able to put it inside my 71C10. Because if you've seen the channel, you know that that's my baby truck, my dream truck. And right now it has a 292 inline 6. So basically it's a 2JZ Supra. But I want to go ahead and put some American ponies under there, even though the engine's made in America. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and see if we can get this engine running. As you can see, I got some of the engine tore down already. It's just for me to show y'all, and it's just so y'all can see all the gunk and all that I have to go ahead and clean off in this video. Alright guys, so I have to go ahead and clean this engine because although they not have oil inside of it, water got inside of the engine. And if I go ahead and turn on the engine the way it is or cranking it over, all that sludge, I call it chocolate. Basically when water and oil mix, it's gonna go ahead and go inside the engine, which I do not want that to happen. But yeah guys, so we're gonna go ahead and take off the oil pan. As you can see, got the valve covers off, and we're gonna go ahead and clean up everything. See if we can start this engine. Even if I don't, I'm gonna see what I can do in the future. And if this is not the engine that's gonna go inside the truck, we're probably gonna get another one. I actually have my eyes on like a fully built 350 V8. But in case I do get this one to work, then I guess I'll put this one inside, or I'll probably keep this one as a spare. But the point is, I want to get this engine running, and I'm probably gonna end up spending a little bit of money to get new push rods, new rockers, and I'll probably see if I can get the heads resurfaced, and I'll probably check out the pistons, see how they're at. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and start tearing down the engine and see if we can clean up all the chocolate that's inside the engine. But yeah, so let's get this video started. Alright guys, you can see how dirty this thing is. So basically what I think happened is that whenever it was sitting outside, some water got inside here like on the valves, and then it basically dried up, and like that's how it looks like. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this up right now. I think I'm probably gonna use my pressure washer to clean this up, but we'll see what's up. Alright guys, so next thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and take off the coil that sends spark to the distributor, and I'm also gonna go ahead and take off the distributor right now, and also all this extra stuff we're not gonna be using with this intake. So let me go ahead and take this off really quick. Okay, now we can go ahead and take off the distributor right here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the distributor on for right now. I got to thinking, and if I just remove the whole intake, all of it will come out. So we're gonna go ahead and skip that for right now. But now my next priority is cleaning up these valves because they are really bad. So we're gonna go ahead and clean them up as much as we can. We're probably gonna be using a vacuum so we can go ahead and make sure we get everything. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this as much as we can. You can see like what we're trying to clean. It's like this nasty like dirt. I don't know where it is. But so we're gonna go ahead and clean it, use the vacuum as much as we can, and then call it good. See, we have pretty much the valve covers as clean as we can. They look way more bare compared to like when we first got the engine. It took off as much of like that muck or grease or whatever you want to call it off, and we pretty much got everything off. You can see that there's basically nothing now, and also for the other side. Yeah, so like you can see that like even this side's completely clean as well. I'll probably clean it again in the future, but for right now it should be fine. There may be like a bunch of reasons why like the valve covers or like the valves on the top look like that. Some of them can be like some water got mixed with oil, maybe like they use cheap oil. Conventional oil does that to your engine, so this is a perfect example of like what can happen if you use conventional oil all the time. or also like they just didn't do the oil changes in time. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and keep on working on this. So now I'm gonna see if I can turn over the engine and check out the oil pan and clean it out, because I'm pretty sure it has like some what you call chocolate. Whenever I say chocolate, I refer to it as water and oil mixing together, which makes this chocolate thing. And if it does have, I want to go ahead and clean it out, because you never know if this engine does work right now, and if you're able to get running like the way it sits, it's gonna start like the oil pump again, and it's gonna send all that chocolate up to the valves and everything. It's gonna be a bigger mess. So rather catch it now, if it is, cleaning out the oil pan as much as I can. And I know for a fact this engine was not mixing water, like the coolant was not mixing with the oil. We checked that because we verified it with the oil filter. The oil filter had good oil. It's just that water got inside the engine somehow, and it basically made chocolate. So we're gonna go ahead and clean it out and see how it goes. So also guys, nothing will fall off the engine because I haven't removed anything. The valve, the rockers, and like the push rods, they're not gonna fall off since they're still secured. So basically we can just go ahead and turn over this engine. So we're gonna go ahead and leave it like that. That should be perfectly fine for me to work at, and it'll make it way more easy for me to access everything underneath the engine. And also I've also wanted to leave it like this, so in case there's other stuff, I can just go ahead and remove the oil cap and everything should fall down. So let's go ahead and start tearing down into this engine. We have the engine right here. We're gonna go ahead and remove the oil thing first, see if anything comes out. I'm gonna go ahead and set it on the side right there. Alright guys, so first I'm gonna go ahead and remove all these bolts right here, and then take off the oil pan. Yep, and I was right. Alright guys, and this is what I wanted to do. See, because you can see right now that oil is not supposed to look like this. This is basically like water mixed with oil. That's why I call it chocolate. It looks like chocolate. But yeah, so it's a good thing that we were able to catch it. And see, you can see like it was like really bad over here. The inside of the engine doesn't look that bad, but that's because like this engine was not ran whenever this happened. So like this is just like from it sitting here, from it being full with water, but basically everything else should be fine. You can see like the pistons in there and everything. But yeah, it's a good thing that we took off the oil pan and we were able to catch this and clean it out before we even tried turning it over, because then they were made a mess of the whole engine and gone all over the place. Alright guys, but this is what I wanted to check and catch before we even started the engine. Alright guys, and basically whenever I bought the engine, I made sure to check that it wasn't mixing oil. And you can do that by checking the valve covers, taking off the oil cap, because then if you take off the oil cap, you'll be able to tell that it's been mixing water. It will look like the same like that. And also if you check the dipstick will tell you most of the time if it's mixing oil and water. But I went ahead and took off the valve covers, like they were clean. Like if it was mixing oil and water, you were able to tell the minute I would have taken off the valve cover. But these just have gunk from them using like cheap oil, and also from like the oil getting burnt while being in the sun. So basically guys, this can happen to any engine. No, it doesn't matter if it's brand new or old. Head gaskets go bad all the time, and when they do, sometimes like if you neglect fixing it, it can ruin your car's engine completely. But if you catch it fast enough, you may be able to fix it. It's gonna be a long fix because you have to basically clean up all the parts. You gotta clean everything up, since that basically contamination got inside all the valve string, all the moving parts like the valves and everything, camshafts. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and clean this out, top layer, but that's because the oil pan was full with water, so it makes sense that like these will be a little bit covered as well. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and see if we can clean the oil pan. Then we're gonna see if we can change the intake from the engine I have outside, swap them out, and then start seeing if we can turn this engine over. Alright guys, as you can see, we got the oil pan right here. It's pretty much dried, but I'm just gonna go ahead and spray. Don't mind this. This is just, I guess, stain. It's not gonna come off anymore. But we're gonna go ahead and spray some brake cleaner in here, just so we can make sure we get like any other like debris inside this like little housing, and also like the water that's in there comes out completely, gets out of the way, because I don't want that mixing with the oil again. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now, and then we're gonna go get the intake manifold that we need from the other engine, the engine outside. Okay guys, so this is my 350 V8 engine. This is actually the one that came with my 62C10 truck. But if y'all remember, we blew up that engine because it was leaking oil all over the highway. But we're gonna go ahead and take it off and use it as our intake for the engine, so we can go ahead and test it out to see if this engine works. Alright guys, so we got the intake right here and also the carburetor, but I don't think I explained why we're gonna go ahead and install this intake instead of the other one, instead of using like the one the truck comes with. Well, the reason is that the carburetor that the engine came with, the newer one, it's seized up. It has rust. Like you can't even open the gas, you can't even press the gas lever down so you can open up the carb, and that carb is like nothing. It's a completely different one than what we have. So we know this one works for sure, because actually whenever we took off the engine, we made sure to cover it. And also when we bought the truck before it blew up, this one was working and making it run correctly and everything. So that's the main reason we're going to be using this one. And also another reason why we're going to go ahead and use this intake right now is because if we were to buy an intake manifold that will fit that one, like a 4-barrel one, like the one we want, we would have to get a new carburetor and a new intake manifold, and that's over probably going to be around $300. And if this engine doesn't work and we buy that parts and we get another engine that we know for sure does work, but and it comes with the intake manifold we need, and also it comes with a carb that's like already meant for the engine, it's going to be a waste of money, and we're not going to use those parts anymore, or we won't even need them after all. So that's the main reason we're going to be using this carb. This one might be a little bit small, but it should be perfectly fine for just starting it up and running it for a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and use this one for right now, because we know it works perfectly fine. And now we're gonna go ahead and get the parts that we need from the 62C10. We're gonna go ahead and take off the distributor cap, the spark plug wires, the spark plugs, also, and then also the coil pack. That engine that has a 350 right now in the 62C10, I want to basically put it in 4 degrees of timing instead of 4, because that's why I put it in the beginning when we first started, and I haven't touched this since then. So I'm going to go ahead and put it at 8 so we can get more power out of it, and also it can run a little bit more better, because it's been backfiring a lot, and I think that's the main reason why. So basically, even if I don't do this, if I don't take off the distributor or any of that, I'm still going to have to take it off either way to make the engine run perfect, and also set the timing at the way I want it to be. So that's the main reason we're going to be taking off parts from that truck and putting them back once we know this engine runs for sure. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and take off all the parts we need from the 62C10, and then bring them back over here and have them ready to install. Alright guys, so this is my 62C10. If y'all seen my last videos with this truck, y'all know that it has a 350 V8 as well. The only thing is that this one's a little older than the one we have right now. This one's, I believe, an 83 or to 85, and the other one's a 95. But basically, this is a 350 V8 with the engine dress-up kit. Y'all should see that video out. It looks really cool. We put the timing chain cover, the valve covers, and the air filter and other stuff. But we're basically going to go ahead and get the distributor from the back, and also the spark plugs, and then the coils, and that'll be it.
Let me hold you.
All the parts we need from this truck, so now we can go ahead and start getting all this stuff back inside the garage. Alright guys, so I went ahead and flipped over the engine, and I'm gonna go ahead and take off the intake manifold first. But before that, I have to go ahead and loosen some stuff up here. guys, and with that, those are all the bolts that hold the intake manifold in place. So now we can see we can start taking it off.
I'll place my hands on your face. Breathe with me. We need to go a little faster, a little faster. We need to go a little faster, a little.
Alright guys, so just like that, we got the intake manifold off. We were able to save the gaskets. We're gonna take off this RTV and put a new one on, just so it won't leak air. Alright guys, well, I think I'm gonna get the vacuum back out, because look, see if I can, yeah, I can see that like there's a bunch of stuff. So I think I might as well like clean it out right here too. I'm not trying to scratch the push rods as much. But yeah, so I'm probably just gonna like scrape off some of this a little bit, and then take it back out with the vacuum, just so we can have like a good surface to work with. Alright guys, well, I pretty much got as much clean as I could. The only reason why I'm cleaning this is because I know like this won't get inside the engine, but I just want the push rods to be able to like move freely without anything like interfering with them. But yeah, so we basically got this pretty much all cleaned off. Like there's nothing basically left. It's actually pretty clean, but I think like once we like run it and it works, we're gonna take it off and make sure that clean it again. I probably put some like engine degreaser here, but that'll be in the future. But now I'm gonna go ahead and take off this old gasket or RTV, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a new one and put our intake on. Now that we have everything clean, I'm gonna go ahead and put some gasket maker right here on these sides, because there's no gasket that goes there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit on. I'm using gray RTV just because it's fuel resistant. So we're gonna go ahead and put a layer right here. And now we can go ahead and get our intake manifold. We're gonna go ahead and put on. Gonna sit just like that. Oh snap, we got one of these. All right, there we go. And that's how it's gonna sit, just like that. So now we can go ahead and put the bolts in. See, like we pretty much everything done. I believe like I was not able to put on these bolts just because like this intake is just a tiny bit, so like a quarter of an inch, but that should be fine. I'm gonna leave it like the way it is because we're just testing it. We're not gonna be running the truck like this. This is just a test fire. But now we're gonna go ahead and flip the engine over and put the oil pan back on. So we have the oil pan here. It's pretty much completely clean. Looks way more better than when we first took it off. But now we're gonna go ahead and install it back on the engine. And with that, we can go ahead and put our oil drain plug back on. And just like that, we're able to put our valve covers back on with the gaskets they came with, since they are still good. Everything you need anytime you call, I'm here for you. Everything I am, anywhere we are. Now with the valve covers on, I lost one of the bolts, but I'm gonna find it here in a little bit. We can start putting our spark plugs back in, except the one for number 1, because I'm actually gonna use that one to find top dead center. So we're just gonna go ahead and screw them on and tighten it. And also, and just so y'all know guys, piston number 1 is the one that's on the driver's side. So it'll be like the one over there, the first one over there. So we're gonna go ahead and put these spark plugs in, and we'll be one step closer to trying to see if this engine starts. Alright guys, so now we're gonna go ahead and put the distributor back on and also put oil in the engine. I might put the distributor back on, then mark everything where it's gonna be, then take off the spark plugs and see if we can crank it over, so if it has anything else in the piston they can take it out. So right now I have a paper towel that's been soaked in a little bit of water, and I'm gonna go ahead and put inside the spark plug hole. And the reason why it's a little bit soaked is because if I go ahead and put in the spark plug hole, it's gonna make a complete seal, and I'm trying to find the compression stroke for cylinder number 1 before it hits top dead center. So by me doing this, I can see whenever it's put in compression, because then the paper towel will pop out. And then by me knowing this, I can go ahead and align my engine before it hits 4 degrees of timing. I'm doing 4 degrees of timing so it can start easier. Then once if we figure it works, I'll put at 8. So now we're going to go ahead and put on a distributor and also put on the cap. But on the cap, I have to go ahead and pick which point or terminal is going to be cylinder number 1. So if I pick this one as my terminal, I got to make sure it's aligned with the tab or the little metal thing that creates the spark on the distributor spinning around. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm putting it on, and also mark it off as cylinder number 1. Then once I'm done doing that, I can go ahead and put all the spark plug wires in the order they're supposed to go, or the firing order of the engine. So now with the distributor cap on and the coils on, we can go ahead and put the spark plug back in cylinder number 1, and also go ahead and connect its final spark plug wire so it can get the spark it needs to start this engine. And just like that, this engine is ready to be turned on or tested to see if it will even start, and we have everything ready to go and everything connected with other parts from other engines. So it's basically a Frankenstein engine at this point. As you can see, we got the engine right here and it's basically ready to go. The only thing is we have to go ahead and transfer it to our engine lift. And also, I didn't get to start today because I unfortunately not have enough oil. I have to go get more oil, so we're gonna go ahead and buy more oil tomorrow as well. But yeah, so I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. What's up, guys? It's day 2 of trying to see if this engine will start and work. And I went ahead and got some motor oil so we can go ahead and top this off with fresh new oil. Then after that, after we're done doing that, we're gonna go ahead and put it back on the engine lift so we can go ahead and start it and probably set it down like on a piece of wood or something so it doesn't fall. Connect our gas lines and then see if it will start like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and top it off with some more oil since we did not have enough yesterday. But I'm just using some cheap old conventional motor oil. So let's go ahead and top this engine up.
A moment of our lives. I don't need anything.
Well, take all the way up on the full mark. So we're gonna go ahead and call it good.
Wasted all our time. But I'm not giving up. Giving up.
Okay guys, so we're trying to start the engine, but as soon as we were trying to start it, we found out that 2 of the cylinders were not making any compression. So which led us to start doing a compression test to see what was wrong with it, or if the rings were cracked or something. So the last clip you saw was yesterday, and actually instead of trying to turn it on, I went ahead and got a compression test kit. And then upon testing like each cylinder for compression, I found out that 2 of the cylinders were not making any compression. And it was basically cylinder number 1 on the passenger side and cylinder number 4 on the driver's side, which led me to investigate what was the issue. And after finding out and figuring out, I found out that the exhaust valve on cylinder number 2, basically the first one for the passenger side, has the exhaust valve open. And then cylinder number 4, or basically the second one from the driver's side, has an intake valve open. So what this means, guys, is that like the valves are staying open, which I kind of knew that was gonna happen anyway, since this engine was sitting for a while and also have water inside of it. Basically, the valves are seized up. I'm actually surprised most of them were. It was just 2 of them. But basically, guys, so what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm probably not gonna end up putting this engine in the truck anymore. I actually saw one that came up for sale from a shop, and it's a really good deal, and it's a fully built engine, H3 cam, new oil pump, new forged rods, forged pistons, and a forged crankshaft. And it's also a 350. It's just been rebuilt, so that's freaking cool. And I'm getting a really good deal on it, and it's like basically brand new. So which basically leads me to my next point. So I know this engine will run. I checked the compression on all the cylinders, and this is what I found out. Alright guys, so right now you're looking at the compression sheet I wrote. So we got cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can also, and now guys, I can show you what happened. So basically when I did a compression test, you can see that these were like 90, then 0, which is, this is the one with the stuck intake valve, 120, 120. Then we have 0 up here, and that's because I had an exhaust valve open. Then we have 40, 60, 40. And I know these numbers are low, which I knew was gonna be happening. So I want to hit and pour a little bit of oil in each of the cylinders, or basically just the right side. And you can see that we pumped it, we were able to get compression up to 70, 90, 70. And this is for me just letting this sit for a little bit. So I'm basically gonna see if I can leave the piston soaked overnight. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for this side. I didn't test this side again. But yeah, so we had a stuck valve on cylinder number 3 and a stuck valve on cylinder number 2. And in order for me to get this engine running perfectly good and like reliable, I have to basically go ahead and take off the heads. I went ahead and put some penetrating oil on the valves already, and I let them sit overnight. But I have not tried turning it over to see if the valve opens or closes. So basically, what I'm gonna end up doing, I want to fix this engine, and I want to have it as a spare. Like it doesn't matter, like if it doesn't go any of the trucks for right now, it's fine. But I can use this engine and use it for another project in case we get another car, or we possibly put it into our 69 T10, because that one has a 252 inline 6. The white truck right now, the 71, has a 292, and we want to take that one and we completely rebuild it, because that's honestly, I really like the engine. Like it's the one that came with the truck. I want to be able to rebuild the engine and make it super freaking reliable, because I really like the engine. So yeah, so basically guys, we're gonna end up taking off the intake. I'm probably gonna end up buying new push rods, rocker arms, and like some springs. And I'm gonna go ahead and completely turn on the engine. So I'm gonna take off the intake, take off the heads, and then I'm gonna see how the pistons are as well. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. Don't forget to come back and see the process, because we are gonna see if we can rebuild this engine and get it working reliable. Everything seems to be working besides those 2 valves, but I'm probably gonna end up tearing it down a little bit more, replacing some small stuff. But yeah guys, so on future videos we're gonna go ahead and break down this engine. We're gonna take off the intake, the heads, and see if we can get the valves on stock, because I really do want to see this engine be running. And if it does work, we're probably gonna end up getting a new intake, a bigger carb, and some new distributors. But yeah guys, so I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you liked it, if you enjoyed it. But yeah guys, I'll see you all next time.